In this video, I'm going to give you a review on the XSMS communicator made by IDS. This is the communicator over here. It's basically a 3G modem. So you'll have your GSM communicator, and there is the SIM card. It's taking the full size SIM, but obviously you can have a SIM holder to adjust the different SIM cards that you might have. You might have micro and nano. Now that's not important. What's important is the function of this little device. Now I've had some trouble with this device in the past, and I think it's important that the community know about this, otherwise this will be an endless headache for you. Now the first thing is connecting this communicator. It comes with this cable, and as you can see, this cable feeds into the main board onto where you would normally do the firmware upgrades. You see over here you've got a serial port, and this is the same cable that is connecting to the GSM communicator or the XSMS X64 module. Now that isn't the problem. The problem is actually the power cables. Now these are the two power cables which you'll need to connect to the 12 volt, or with what they call the auxiliary, on the main board of the X range panels. Now logically one would think that on large installations where you would have maybe an extra power supply, just having a look to the left here, this happens to be a 12 volt power supply, which is very useful in larger installations, providing with you with a backup power. So it would make sense to connect all the peripherals, like maybe you've got many sensors. You see over here I've got a lot of sensors, and these sensors can be fed from the 12 volt backup power supply, so it doesn't drain the main board. You see the main board's battery lifespan is maybe 8 hours, maybe 12 if you're lucky. But if you can't get to your site within say 20 hours, or if there's a power outage, then why not connect all your peripherals, your passives, and maybe if you've got any remote receivers. Like if I show you on the right hand side here, I have a remote receiver, and maybe you've got some door openers or lighting, whatever it is. Now all of these extra circuits also drain your battery from your main board. So the whole point of having the backup power supply is to have all the peripherals connected to the backup power supply, so as not to drain your 7 amp hour battery on the IDS system. They recommend a 7 amp hour battery, although you can put a bigger battery. But I've noticed that when I do put the bigger battery, the heating here is immense. It actually gets black at the top here when I do put a bigger battery, and I know that it is specified to handle it, but I just don't feel comfortable when I see that it's heating so much at the back there. And nevertheless, so the challenge is with the XSMS communicator, and why I've made this video is I've had problems with the power input to this XSMS communicator. Now I've subsequently realized that you have to, and I use the word have to, the phrase have to, because you have to connect the positive and negative to the main board. You may not connect the XSMS communicator, these positive and negative, to a backup power supply, for the reason that, and this is my assumption, and I have taken it up with IDS, and I believe they are now aware of it from my recommendation, that this serial communicating cable here, which is actually providing the serial interface for the XSMS communicator, it also has a power cable. Now what I propose, or what I have assumed, is that this power and that power need to be referenced to each other, which means if you have connected this to an alternative power supply, and maybe it's a little bit higher, you'll find that it actually pops the SMS communicator, and the communicator actually stops working. So why am I telling you this is my third communicator and my second board, because what happens is when this is on an external power supply, such as the one I just showed you on the right hand side, your 12 volt external power supply, it actually pops the the serial interface here, and the main board no longer talks to the XSMS communicator. And I have taken this up with IDS, and they have said that according to them, you have to connect it to the main board, the positive and the negative, although that is not explicitly stated in the quick guide, and it just says connect to the 12 volt such as the auxiliary. But one would think that since you have a large power supply and a SMS module can use up to an amp, or say 600 milliamps, especially when it is transmitting, then one would think, why put it on the main board? Why not put it on the external power supply? So this is a problem. If you're using the XSMS communicator, make sure that you connect the power supply at the same board that you are connecting the serial comms cable. You may not separate these power supplies. This has got its power supply from this board with reference to this voltage, and otherwise it will blow it's not buffered. Sorry, I have taken this up with IDS, and I have assumed, and I can't say for sure, but I assume that it is unbuffered, and I have recommended that they actually put an optical isolator here, or at least a buffered output, so that you may do whatever you want with this power supply, this 12 volt. So you may have a XSMS communicator at several sites, and you finding they're working fine, and maybe you've actually connected the power source to an external supply and you think it's fine. But guess what I found is when the main battery goes below 11 volts, it pops the main board's communication chip. So this is what I found out, is that the problem is actually sitting on this battery here. When maybe there's a power outage and this battery goes too low, well, then we have a differential between what's coming here on the serial comms cable and the power cable if this was connected to a external power supply. So let me just sum that up again. If this is connected to an external power supply of 12 volts and this is connected to the main board, and maybe your battery here goes to 9 volts, well, then you have a differential and it pops it. Or in another situation, you might have this at 12 volts and this maybe is on an external power supply, and that power supply goes below, say, 10 or so whatever volts. Then you have a differential. That differential is not a friend of this XSMS communicator. So I highly recommend that if you're using this XSMS communicator, use it with caution, be aware of this limitation. And I have also another problem with the XSMS communicator, which I'm now going to show you. I'm going to show you the SMSs that come through. Right, so in this part of the video, I'm just demonstrating another problem I've picked up with this communicator. Now, this is an example of SMSs that have been sent from the communicator, and they're great. You can see it's giving the actual, the partition 1, burglary, kitchen door. That's perfect. The one before that is burglary, FTN main bath, VX gate. These are perfect. There's no problem with that. But now I'm going to show you a site which is not giving good readouts. Now here we have another site. The first problem I keep having is this failed communication to panel timed out. I've contacted IDS, they've given me locations to check in if there's phone numbers in there, and I've done everything they said. It keeps giving this communications to panel timed out over and over again. It's almost daily that I get these. There we go, another one. Failed communication timed out, failed communication timed out, failed communication timed out. This is annoying, and I have not been able to find a solution, and the call center have also not been able to provide a solution. So I keep getting an SMS telling me communication to panel timed out, and I'm thinking it's an activation. So when I'm getting a lot of like senseless messaging. Now we can see that there was a burglary or an activation last night. So let's look at the activation. It was at 7. Okay, so it was early in the morning, 7:02, and then you see it says there burglary Z20. Then it says burglary Z33. So that's the zone. That is fine. But why is it giving me Z33 when Z33 has a name? For example, a little bit later down, it says burglary beam office. Then it says burglary PRR lounge flood. Now, that's perfect. These names are correct. But why does it go back to Z36, Z25, Z20? And it does that on and off. For example, this one here which says
P1 burglary PRR jungle G. That one that I'm showing you now comes with the name. Then tomorrow when we activate that sensor, it comes with the Z23 or whatever it is, the zone number. So there's some inconsistency with this particular unit. Now you might think, well, maybe the unit's faulty. This is third unit. You might think it's the main board. That is a second main board. So I have then contacted the IDS and they've given me all the codes to put in and sorting out the location. I still get this problem. So I just now live with this. So my recommendation is that this XSMS communicator is a little bit precarious. On some of my installations, it works excellently. I'm very happy with it. And others, I just have endless problems. So this is just a video just telling you about these challenges, and maybe if you have any solutions, post it in the comments. Love to hear it. Thanks for watching. Cheers.